This was a project that actually was initially published 18 months ago by the Royal Agricultural Society of England, and they're a charity that is involved in innovation and technology transfer in the agricultural sector. They've been around for hundreds of years. But we developed this report to look specifically at how we're going to support the agriculture industry and our food supply chain as it moves away from fossil fuel reliance, diesel, towards novel fuels, novel vehicles, but also the whole way in which we manage the countryside and we look after the soil and animal health. One of the reports that was produced 18 months ago was specifically on future vehicles and future fuels, and that was done in conjunction with Cenex, who are obviously organising this event. So the stand behind us is a collaboration between RASE and Cenex with a number of companies that have developed or are developing technologies that farmers will be working with in the years ahead as they start to decarbonise. I think there are three audiences. There's actually government. We have a government that perhaps doesn't do enough to promote the decarbonisation of our food chain and perhaps distracted with other things. We have the farmers themselves and getting farmers information in packages that they can use and appreciate. And then there's a sort of stakeholder interface of consultants, advisors, bankers and people like that. So we're aiming at all three audiences. And actually the latest part of the report was published only a couple of months ago, which is a farmer's guide. So we've taken all the information that's available on the website in the reports into a sort of 30-page document that just gives farmers some clues and some leads to what they should be doing. And part of that is vehicles. And the reason we're here with the vehicle technology is to actually, more than anything, focus on government and stakeholders. There aren't many farmers at the show, but it's very important that it's recognised that agriculture has to change like the rest of us in terms of not using fossil fuels in the future. I think we have been over the years, yes, at the forefront of technology. Lack of funding has been an issue. Not far from here we had an organisation called CILSO, which was the farm engineering organisation, which is no longer. But there are lots of very creative businesses in the farming sector, some of which are started by farmers. So Small Robot Company, which we might have a look at later, it's actually a farmer's son who's invented that technology. And so farmers have traditionally invented new ways of doing things. I've met a number of farmers over the years who created new ways of doing things that they're already doing. I think what we face here is a step change away from fossil fuels. Not only are fossil fuels used for power, they're also used to make fertilizers and used in pesticides. So decarbonising needs to go a lot deeper, and at the same time we've got a movement towards what they call regenerative farming, which is organisations like Groundswell, who run an exhibition every year, who are encouraging farmers to farm the soil more beneficially, to look after the soil resource. And actually the vehicle issue is part of that as well, because we don't want necessarily to have heavy vehicles compressing the soil, and that's again where robotic vehicles are coming in, doing tasks that don't need a big tractor like the one behind us, but actually can gather information or do weed management or pest control based on smaller robotic vehicles. So we've moved to the other end of the display where we're looking at robotic vehicles. So whereas heavy tractors are going to be part of agriculture for the long term, increasingly we're looking at how we can deploy robots not only on fields but also in glass houses, in orchards and other high value sectors. And this here is the Small Robot Company. This is their very early prototype, Little Tom. It's about 4 years old. They now have their Mark IV version, which is actually out in fields doing trials at the moment. It's all about mapping fields, mapping plants, so doing what we try and call per plant farming. So looking at plants individually, looking at the weed damage, and looking at how you can manage weeds better, control weeds, kill them off, but without spraying the whole field. So reducing the amount of sprays used. Obviously small vehicles, they travel on the soil, they don't cause the compaction. And Small Robot Company is one of the leading British companies in field robotics, so in farm fields as opposed to in horticulture, orchards or in glass houses. And we have a couple of robots here that are going to be doing this sort of activity, and they're going to be providing it as a service. So instead of the farmer buying the robot, they will deploy the robot as a service. It'll come in and do the robotics work in the fields, do the mapping, Then when the sprayer then is brought in to spray, the sprayer will only spray the limited area that is where they have weed control. And ultimately the company is developing other autonomous vehicles that will deliver other services on farm. And farmers will start to benefit from technology that's being deployed all across the economy. But getting somebody to work in a field is a big challenge compared to in a factory.